It'll get me. 'Cause I move around. All right, here we go. All right, so let me introduce myself because some of you don't know. So I'm Tom. I've been here at MPI 30 years now in another couple months. And I teach college outside of here. I'm a therapist. I'm starting my 36th year of teaching college next week, actually, which is a long time. And I've been a therapist for over 30 years, and everything I've done is for quite some time. So that's why I always do these more like classes. I will give you a handout after today that will have all this. So I teach at Chabot College in Hayward, and I teach at College of Morin over at Morin, but actually I'm not there this semester coming up. My background, some of you guys know, is sports. I was a swim coach at Cal for a few years, and kind of the highlight of that is I coached Matt Biondi, who was one of the greatest Olympics athletes ever, who won 11 Olympic medals. I was able to go to the Olympics with him in 1992, which is totally awesome. And so that was actually my way into psychology, was through sports psychology. Then I switched to clinical psychology. I did teach sports psychology in graduate school for about 15 years, and I wrote a book on sports psychology that came out about 20 years ago. All right, so that's kind of the backstory. What I teach in college is I teach intro to psych, abnormal psych, and child and adolescent. And so what we're going to talk about today, this comes from child and adolescent psychology. And so what I'm going to do is I'll talk, and then I'll weave it around into addiction and recovery. All right? And so let's get rolling. So what I'm going to talk about here is I'm going to talk about how a lack of bond, lack of attachment impacts people. All right? So let me, lack of bond, lack of attachment. So this could be anything. This could be lack of bond, lack of attachment that, I was given up for adoption. I never knew my parents. My parents were working all the time. I'm the eighth of 8 kids. My parents weren't really around. This could be, so at College of Morin, often many of my students are nannies. And what I will ask them is, do the kids that you're a nanny for, do they have a closer relationship with you or with their parents? And I'd say 100% of the time they have a closer relationship with me than their parents. So what we're going to see is, when we look at this, what happens to that kid as they start to get a little older? All right? And how does that lack of bond, that lack of attachment impact them and possibly lead to addictive behavior? But so the thing I talk about, and this will all be in the handout I give you, the first thing, this is an experiment that started in 1976 by Edward Tronick at Harvard. And when he started in 76, people went, oh, that's interesting. Today, it's called the most important experiment in the history of psychology. And what it's called the still face experiment. And what he has a mom sitting right here and a baby, usually maybe a year old, different ranges, but let's say 10 months, a year old, sitting right here. There's a camera right here on the baby and a camera right here on mom. And they have mom and the baby interact. And then they say to mom, when you hear us knock, we want you to pause for a second, turn away, and turn back to your child with this still face. And no matter what your kid does, for 2 minutes, we want you to just sit there with no response. This is what I say to my students. You got to put your thinking cap on. This is where you can participate. It's a 3-part response by the child. Mom and kid are playing, everything's wonderful. Mom turns back with a still face. Can you guess the first response from the kid?
Smile.
Confusion.
Yeah, that's the second response, that's the first response. The confusion. What you see in these little kids, some 6 months old, 8, 10 months old, their little eyebrows go up. What just happened? Something just changed. All right, what's going on here? Okay, this shock and confusion. And then the second response, they smile. They try to engage with mom. They try to draw mom back. All right? And then the third response, pretty easy. What do we think?
Right.
They cry. They break down. All right? And so there are plenty of, if you grew up and your parents were addicts, that may be what you saw. That may be what you saw. Or your parents were working all the time. Your parents were in the military and they were gone for 8 months at a time. And they just weren't there. All right? So what happens with that, so that's one piece of the puzzle, keep that in mind. The other is, this is from Mary Ainsworth, and it's what's called the strange situation. And what she has is a mom and a kid come into a room like this, but it's full of toys everywhere. And they ask mom, put the kid on the floor, please, and just there's a box of toys right there, and you sit right here on the couch. And they want to see, what's the kid going to do? Is the kid going to grab a toy and come sit with mom? Is the kid going to go explore the whole room and look at, oh my gosh, look at all these cool toys? And eventually, in this experiment, it's 21 minutes long, mom will leave the room just for a few minutes, well, not a few minutes, but for a brief period of time, and leave the kid in there. Now you can guess, these kids are maybe a year and a half old, most of them. A lot of kids cry, but there are plenty of kids who don't cry. And they just sit there. Mom's gone. You have a little heart rate monitor on their finger. Their heart rate's gone up. Their breathing's increased. Before the age of 2, they've already learned to mask their emotions. My needs will not get met. There's no point in me showing how I feel. Before the age of 2. All right? And so that's what you see. So what happens with this lack of bond, this lack of attachment, what this leads to as that kid gets a little older, it leads to this emotional isolation. This emotional isolation. And what they do, and again, this is not like a judgment, this is a means of survival. If they have learned my needs aren't going to get met, why should I show my needs? Why should I show how I feel? It's not going to, it doesn't mean anything. All right? So what happens with this is that they don't recognize or identify their own feelings. And there are many people who come in here to MPI or any other treatment program, and they've got pretty much 2 feelings, bad and not bad. That's it. Bad and not bad. All right? And so I don't recognize my own feelings. I don't identify my own feelings because, again, feelings are painful, and so I don't even want to look at these. So this emotional isolation, and then so what happens is, because of this, now they're going to adopt behaviors so they don't have to deal with these feelings. And what they may do, and here's one that looks very, very healthy. They may become a workaholic. I'll just work all the time. I don't have time for feelings. All right, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I can't feel. I'm not going to, and I don't say that, but it's like I'm just always working. I'm always busy. And again, that's something in our society that looks healthy. Nobody had people have interventions sometimes to come into treatment. Nobody has rarely an intervention that you're working too much. It's like, oh man, isn't this person great? They're sleeping at the office 3 days a week. Oh, awesome. You see? So it's a way I don't deal with my feelings. Or what they could do is exercise compulsively. Exercise compulsively. I always look at the clock right now with this. Think of an Ironman triathlete. It's a 2.4 mile open water swim. You get on the water, you get on your bicycle, and you ride 112 miles. You get off your bicycle, you put on your tennis shoes, and you run a marathon. 26.2 miles. 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, 26.2 mile run. You're a superstar if you can do that, period. All right? And the total superstar is under 12 hours. You start at 7 a.m., you're done at 7 p.m. All right? There are plenty of Ironman triathletes here in the Bay Area right now. They've already been in the pool probably for an hour and a half. They're on their 4-hour bike ride right now, and they're only going to run an hour today after their bike ride because tomorrow, after their swim, they're running for 3 hours. They're running for 3 hours. And I'll just tell you, I ride a lot yesterday, and I do loops and, back and forth and things like this. There had to be a guy from when I saw him in the different times. I saw him 4 different times yesterday. I'm like, this guy's still running. I'm sure he ran at least 20 miles yesterday. Now, maybe he looks like a marathon runner. Maybe he is a marathon runner. But again, exercising compulsively, I don't have time for feelings. It's a way to try to cope with this. I don't have time to, and I can't identify, and so like the Ironman triathlete has a few more feelings: bad, not bad, tired, sore, injured, that kind of thing. Recovering. But then what else happens here, they have this mistrust. This mistrust of others. And where does this come from? My parents aren't there for me. I can't trust my parents, which then means I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anybody. So their motto becomes, the only person you can trust is yourself. You want something done right, you do it yourself. So I can't, and again, I'm not necessarily talking about adult mistrust. I'm talking about the little kid in preschool who doesn't trust the preschool teacher. You know, the little kid, and so what they're going to do, they don't trust others, and they often rebel. All right, they rebel against him. You know, where the preschool line up, we're going to recess. I don't like getting in lines. We're going to recess. I'm not doing the line. Okay, and so they push back. I don't trust others. I push back on others. And think about this. You know, so what else they'll do with this is they develop, and we'll get to this more. They'll develop a mask. How I feel is not what you see. All right? I don't show, kind of like a poker face, I don't show how I'm feeling because I'm really, I'm scared in a lot of ways, but I developed this mask. And with this mistrust, here's a common one in addiction, all right? They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what to do. And that's why all of us who work in addiction treatment, that's why I always say, we suggest. I suggest you go to meetings. I suggest, you got to do this, because we say you got to, you're not, most people aren't going to do it. So they don't want to be told what to do. When you think about this also here, think about, this is what I say to my students, okay? I ask my students, what's your attitude towards rules? Just think about that. I would say, if your next class is an English class, and your English teacher said, pull out a sheet of paper and write your attitude towards rules, what would you write? And these people, as they grow up, they feel like rules don't apply to me. Rules don't apply to me. I mean, it's nice that they're rules for the world, but these rules, don't go putting your rules on me. All right, yeah, you need laws for society, but I don't have to follow those. I don't have to follow rules. I can kind of do what I want when I want. All right? And so that's what you see with this mistrust. And I'll just tell you, in the long run, this ends up being a really lonely place. I don't trust anybody. That ends up being a really, really lonely place in the long run. Okay? And then the next thing here, and again, there's not any special order here, but they have no spiritual connection. No spiritual connection. I don't mean a religious connection, but they don't have a religious connection either. But a spiritual connection, I just mean like appreciating life, appreciating beauty. I mean, there was a pretty cool full moon a couple days ago, but to me, it was not near as good as the one last month, because the one last month was like orange, and it's like that's like, I'm not a photographer or anything like that, but it's like I want to take a picture of that. It was just so beautiful, and just stopping to appreciate, oh my gosh, look how beautiful that is, and how the moonlight comes off the water. Isn't that great? But that's more of what I'm talking about for a spiritual connection. They have no spiritual connection here. But now the next one in here, I'll let you guys give me some thoughts on this one. What happens is they try to get these attachment needs met in other ways. All right? They try to get these attachment needs met in other ways. It's like, I didn't bond with my parents. Give me ways as people get older, they try to get these attachment needs met. What could you guys come up with as far as this?
They stop going to class.
They what?
They stop going to class.
They may stop going to class. They may rebel a little bit. Yeah. Okay?
Drugs, sex.
Yeah, alcohol, drugs, and that could be sex, porn, serial dating, those kinds of things. Absolutely. Other ways people try to get these attachment needs met. There's a whole bunch of them. Whole bunch.
Soliciting prostitution.
Yep, exactly. Prostitutes as well. Go ahead.
Teacher's pet.
What's that?
Teacher's pet.
Teacher's pet. teacher's pet or class clown or something like that. I'm gonna try to get it, yeah.
Codependency.
Codependency.
I was gonna say that relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll take care of you. I'll do that for you. Yeah, yeah. Now think high school kids. High school kids, they didn't get their attachment needs met. What are things that they try to do to get their attachment needs met?
Bill?
Self-destruct Social media.
There it is. Social media. That's something they all do every day. And what is social media about? It's about trying to get an attachment need met. How come you didn't like my picture? I like your pictures. You know, you didn't respond to my post. How come this? How many friends do you have? How many likes did you get on that? I only got this many. So that whole thing, that whole social media thing, that's a way of trying to get attachment needs met. What else do a lot of the high school kids do kind of online for trying to get attachment needs met? Gaming. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And again, this is sad, but I pretty much get this paper every semester from one of my students. My only friends are my World of Warcraft friends. I get that all the time. My only friends are my Fortnite friends. I don't really connect with people. And again, we always look at in psychology, what's behind this? Well, if I never got these attachment needs met, this is not good. I don't feel good about this, okay? And I don't feel good about me, and so I'm trying to fill that void. What else can come into here? There's a whole bunch of other ones.
Cutting.
Maybe cutting, yeah.
Fighting.
Fighting, absolutely. What else? Joining.
A gang.
I'm going to join a gang. I'm going to join the military. I'm going to join a church. I'm going to join a political organization. I'm not saying anything's wrong with these things, but I'm going to join because I'm trying to get these attachment needs met. All right? Because of this hole in here. All right? Other ones. Food. I'm going to eat. You've heard the term comfort food. That's a way of trying to get these attachment needs met. That they have a relationship with food. Like many people have a relationship with, drugs or alcohol. These kinds of things.
Cult.
I'll join a cult. Yeah. Here's one that will surprise you. Pets. Nothing wrong with pets. All right? But there are plenty of people that have a closer relationship to their pet than to any human being. And it's like my dog or my cat here, and then there's maybe a few people. Not there's my dog and my cat and a bunch of people. It's like, and so that's what happens is and what's behind that is I'm trying to get this attachment needs met. I need this, and that's, again, you think of the little kid who wasn't bonding with their parents, so maybe they sleep with their puppy, they sleep with their cat, okay? And they, or their stuffed animal or whatever like this, and so they're trying to get this met in other ways, okay? Can we think about another one? Gambling. Daryl Inaba, the co-founder of the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, he says, a person's brain gambling looks exactly as a person's brain on what drug? Do we know?
Okay.
Close, meth.
Meth.
Person's brain gambling and a person's brain on meth looks exactly the same. Exactly the same. Yeah. And the next one here, this is physical pain. All right? Which sounds a little strange in a way. What do you mean physical pain? Physical pain, that what happens here is you have the global you get more attention and sympathy for physical pain than emotional pain. If so, I tell my students, if one of your friends says to you, hey, here we are, that, back in November, I dated somebody for 3 weeks and we broke up and I think they're dating somebody else. You're like, yeah, they probably are. And you should be too. That was forever ago. But you see, you tell them kind of snap out of it, get over it. But if they say, I got a bad back, how's your back today? Have you tried maybe some yoga? Might be your hamstrings. Maybe you need to do a little stretching. You get a lot more sympathy and attention for physical pain than emotional pain. And a lot of people, what happens is, again, their emotional pain turns into physical pain. Yeah, exactly. Their emotional pain turns into physical pain. Like, you've heard the term, a pain in the neck. All right? You're giving me a heart attack. Their emotional pain turns into physical pain. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, we're going to keep rolling with this, but I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to tell you a story now. And so this is, and it's just interesting, because this is why in the last 3 days, I've asked Rick 5 times when he came in here, because this is about the same time when Rick came in here over 20 years ago. And I was thinking about, before I did this, I said, you know what, this person I'm going to talk about, his story really represents this, all right? And I said, you know what, I wonder if he's still alive. And so actually, you know, I remember his name. I looked him up on the internet, and unfortunately he's dead, and he's been dead for quite some time. And I'm confident, 100% confident, that if I asked him, hey, can I tell your story, he would say, if my story can help people, tell it, all right? So let me give you a little bit of his story, or a lot of bit of his story, all right? So, this is called a genogram. A square is a male, a circle is a female, all right? So, here we go. That's dad, that's mom. They were never married. Mom and dad were never married. They were both alcoholics, that's what that means, okay? All right, he's born, this is late 1940s, early 1950s. So they were never together, they just kind of drank all the time. He stayed with mom, and she really didn't take care of him. When he was 9 months old, when he was 9 months old, he was really sick. She took him to the doctor. He weighed 9 pounds at 9 months old. What's pretty cool, late 1940s, early 1950s, the doctor said, you are unfit, this is not gonna work. And so what they did, they put him over here with a foster family. Now the foster family had some kids of their own, I don't know, sons, daughters, but they had some children, and then they had some foster children. He was like the 3rd or 4th foster child or whatever with them. Now, did they do that out of love, out of compassion, or for money? I really don't know, all right? He never knew his father, but he knew his father's name, and he knew who he was because his father lived locally, all right, as he got older. His mom's still an alcoholic, and when he was here, he would still go see his mom from time to time, but it's the kind of thing you would see in, you know, like the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He would sit in a car on phone books with blocks on his shoes, and he would drive mom home from the bar when she was drunk, when he was like 6, 7, 8 years old. Horrible, but true, all right? So never connected. When he got in middle school, some of his friends, like on his soccer team or little league team or basketball team or whatever, their dads knew his dad. All right, he never knew his dad, but they knew his dad, and he knew his dad's name. And so, you know, he just felt like he was just rejected, just like nobody's here for me. Felt all alone. And so what happened is, obviously he gets a little older, and what's he find? He finds alcohol. And now this kind of solves everything. Now I feel fine. Now I feel cool. Now I feel like I can relax. Now I feel like I can be me. Maybe smoking weed as well, not sure. All right. But so this is kind of what happened. But see, where we're going with this here, another thing that lack of bond, lack of attachment leads to here, low self-esteem. How can I feel good about me? My own parents didn't want me. All right, my own parents didn't care for me. I'm not even sure if my foster family really likes me. Okay, I don't really feel like I connect. So it's low self-esteem, and then very sensitive. Very sensitive, like, well, what's that look mean? And what you mean by that? And how come you said that? And how come, why is this person looking at me this way? All this. Very sensitive, very self-critical. And very concerned what others think about them. All right, now I'll just tell you, my 30 years working in addiction treatment here, these are the 4 things that I say are the most common thing of people who come through the doors here, and probably at any treatment program. I think most people who come through the doors here would say, yes, I feel like I have low self-esteem. I would say I'm a very sensitive person. I'm way more critical of myself than anybody else is. And yes, I am very concerned about what other people think about me. And you could see for somebody like him, who didn't have this bond, didn't have this attachment, didn't connect, this is how he felt. And his, and his self-esteem is so darn bad. There's a lot of sadness to this story. All right. When he came in here, I saw him a little in therapy as well. He had been in and out of treatment for at least 15 years. All right. And what he said is, I have 6 one-year sobriety chips. I have 0 2-year sobriety chips. Why? I don't feel worth it. I don't feel worth it. All right? And if you said, hey, let's go to a meeting. No, you're just trying to be nice to me. That guy don't want to go to a meeting with me. Hey, I'll just, no, he's just saying that. Hey, after this meeting, we all go to dinner. Oh, they feel sorry for me. He just felt so bad. His self-esteem was so low. And so again, and like, I'll just give you the sad piece of the puzzle. When I looked him up, his obituary was 3 lines long. 3. Worked in this job, like this, survived by niece and nephew. No picture. There's a wall, write comments, no comments. 3 lines. Terrible. Sad. Because he's the kind of guy, he was a really good guy, but he didn't know it. And you've all met people who think they're great or think they're smart or think they're this, and they're not. Well, you've probably come across people who are good people, but don't see that they're good people. You see, because, it's like there's a Buddhist monk, he's dead now, Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, if you go to a dump site, you see tons of garbage, but out of the garbage you see flowers growing. And he said, in all of us, we have garbage and we have flowers. All right? He was so focused on his garbage, he couldn't see his flowers. And that's what so many people do. I'm focused on my garbage and I see your flowers. I don't see your garbage. I see your flowers and I see my garbage. All right? And you'll hear people talk about that in treatment. You're comparing your insides to their outsides, things like that. But that's what happened here. And so another interesting piece of this, so this is when, years ago when the internet first came out. Well, his first search, he typed in his father's name. And what he saw, obituary, funeral on Saturday. And father here, his biological father, all right, had remarried. All right, let me get rid of the step parents. All right. The biological father, not remarried or married, he said, I walked into the funeral and there were 3 guys who looked exactly like me. And what happens when you go to a funeral? Nobody says, why are you here? They just, they say, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Well, you look like my brother. No, they don't say that. They just said, thank you for coming. They said, how'd you know our father? And he said, I'm just here to pay my respects. He said, I knew him through, and he said his mother's name, which they recognize, but they don't remember. And but what is that about? Why did he do that? He wanted to connect. He wanted to connect. And I talk about this mistrust of others ending up a lonely place. I mean, what I know is that guy died a lonely, lonely man. Very, very lonely. Did not feel like he connected. All right? Died kind of a broken heart and lonely. I don't know what exactly killed him, but he was not an old person when he died. And like I said, because it's quite some time ago that he did. But these are the kinds of things that this lack of bond, this lack of attachment, that it has this profound impact on people in life. And so that now what happens is, with all of this, you also have like this anger. This anger, like I'm pissed at the world. And you're part of the world, so I'm mad at you. And I'm mad at everybody. This is years ago. One of my students at Chabot, it's weird, it's the second lecture of the class. And he raised his hand. He said, you know what? Let's say he's like 30 years old. My father was murdered when I was 6. I was angry with everybody in the world until I was 25. And then I realized this is not working for me. But I just took it out on everybody. And that's the kind of thing here, this anger. And the other piece of this that happens for so many people is perfectionism. Perfectionism. And I'll tell you, it is not possible to build your self-esteem with perfectionism. It's not possible. right? It's nice to always want to do better and want to improve and all this kind of stuff. But this perfectionism, and I see this every semester with my students. I made a 99 on my test and I feel like an idiot. Every semester. And one of my students, over the summer was saying, yeah, because this is what, some of them were in high school, many of them were in high school this summer. They take for college credit. But this perfection, because the pressure on these kids to get into these schools and make good grades and all this. But what's behind this perfectionism for so many people is I want to win that approval from my parents because I never got it. And this is why, every therapist in the world, I'm sure, has seen this, and many of you have seen this. You'll see somebody who, I don't really care about my parents. I can't stand my dad, or I can't stand my mom, whatever it is. I don't care, want nothing to do with them, never see them again, don't care if they drop dead tomorrow. Doesn't matter. And what happens? The parent dies, and they are devastated. And they're devastated, why? Because now there's zero chance of getting that phone call, I'm sorry.
And then marry somebody like their parent.
Of course.
Who is-
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks. But that's true. That's what they'll do. But see, this perfectionism, I'm wanting to get this because, if your parents are still alive, there's a chance they could, hey, I'm sorry you're in treatment. I may have done some things that could contribute to this, and I just want to apologize to you, and I want to be there and support you in any way I can. Who doesn't want that phone call? All right? Who doesn't want that one? You see, but what happens is this person puts all this pressure on themselves. And then like this guy who I erased, what happens is they feel unlovable and unworthy of love. And what he used to say, all right, again, he would say, my self-esteem is so low that if I'm going to date a woman, I need to find a woman who is unemployed with 3 children because she's not going to leave me. That's how low my self-esteem is because I feel unworthy of love. And there are plenty of people, and this is something like in therapy videos, like from anybody who's ever studied therapy, like the Gloria stuff. What happens as in the 1960s to people in today's world is like, well, I don't feel like these people are, I feel they're out of my league. These people are out of my league, and I don't want people to be able to tell that I'm like not such a great person because I feel unworthy of love. Again, that's all the garbage I see in me, all my past garbage that I'm focused on. And so that's what happens here. And then what happens also, just like the guy I erased there as well, he had a ton of fear. Fear. They go through life in fear, and this could be just fear in general. They have fear of abandonment. All right? This fear of abandonment. Anytime they're with somebody, I'm scared somebody's going to leave me. These kinds of things. And again, how does that start? That starts in grade school with a friend. I'm scared you're going to find a different friend than me. And I'm going to be jealous if you have other friends. Go ahead.
Yeah, I relate to that. I feel I'd always aim low, so I was never disappointed a lot of times. That's with a lot of things growing up and into my adulthood.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aim low, so I'm never disappointed.
You want to add to that? Anything else with that? But no, that's like, just on all different aspects, or
yeah, just anything. Even my grades, I just if I just got by and just didn't try my hardest, then I knew if I failed, it would be okay, right? So, and then when I started dating, when I started getting in the age of dating, I never really tried that hard, and actually, with my friends, I always try to over-impress them a lot of times, but mainly with relationships, I just say hello a lot of times.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything to that? Yeah, go ahead.
I did the same thing, and I was shocked when they reciprocated,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to be with me, and then I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Because here I had someone who liked me, and I'm like, okay, now what do I do with them?
Right.
And I ended up finding the love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that scared me to death.
Right.
Ended up marrying him. But it turned out great, but I never had expected that
Right.
initially. It took him a year to catch me, because I didn't wanna get involved,
Right.
because of the fear of abandonment,
Right. Exactly.
cause I
Yeah.
didn't wanna get involved.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else with any of these so far? And see what else this will lead to. Other psych issues. Other psych issues. Think of this. Depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, addictions, ADHD, you fill in the blank, all right? Because think about this, the kid who did not bond with their parents, are they more likely to be depressed and sad? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I never bonded with my parents, all right? And I have low self-esteem, and of course I'm sad, I'm depressed. Are they more likely to be anxious? Of course. Because I'm anxious, because I'm worried. Why do you like me? Why are you being nice to me? Why? And again, the guy I erased there, he had a lot of anxiety about that, like anxiety, just kind of day-to-day anxiety, that I'm always worried about people. And again, other people where, and then you can kind of give it a name. Oh, well, it's my ADHD that's doing that. Oh, it's because I'm bipolar that this is happening. But with so much of this is like the seed that is growing into that tree is that lack of bond, that lack of attachment, you see, that's leading to these other psych issues that happens here. And just with all this is the pressure that they put on themselves, you know, being sensitive and self-critical, like the pressure that I have to be a certain way, and I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough as I am. And then another thing you hear, so this fear of abandonment, and also this fear of ending unhealthy relationships, unhealthy jobs, unhealthy anything, these unhealthy friendships. I just have this fear, and this is what I'll say to my students. I say, if you have a little brother or sister that's in like 9th or 10th grade and they have their friends over, and of course you're hearing everything they say, and the friends leave, you say to your brother or sister, why do you hang out with them? They're mean to you. They're bullying you. They put you down. They're insulting you. And they say, oh no, you don't understand. We just give each other a hard time. You say, no, I know what a hard time is. This is like cruel and unusual punishment. You should not be friends with them. Well, who am I going to be friends with? I don't want to be one of those kids that doesn't have friends. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Growing up, I was overweight, and all my friends would always make fun of me, and I still stayed friends with them for years and years. And they always made fun of me, and I just thought, who's going to be my friend, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm sorry to hear that one. That's tough. Yeah. Anyone else so far with this? Okay. Almost finished with this, and then we'll get to the solution here. And then they have this whole lack of meaning, purpose, and direction in life. This lack of meaning, purpose, and direction in life. Kind of like life sucks and then you die. You know? And so my life doesn't have any meaning. I don't feel a sense of purpose, and I've got absolutely no direction. And again, I'll see, but you know, plenty of my college students, and maybe it is because their parents have made all their decisions for them, or maybe because there's so much pressure on them, or maybe because their parents are disengaged, whatever it is, but I just don't feel any sense of direction. And you think about that, there are people who kind of like wander through life. They don't have like, here's a goal, here's what I'm going to, this is what I'm trying to do. And so these are the kinds of things. And the next one, kind of the last one here, they have what we call poor emotional regulation skills. Poor emotional regulation skills. They may go flying off the handle at nothing. They're getting very, very angry. As a kid, they were probably having tantrums and acting out in class. All right? Or poor emotional regulation skills, they're just disengaged. Just, I just go with the flow. Yeah, that's the mask, I don't show how I feel. And so, because I can't regulate these emotions, and so it's like I try not to acknowledge them, and they're inside, but it's just like, I can't manage these. I can't manage these things. Okay? So before we roll to the solution, other questions, thoughts, comments, ideas on this here so far? All right, here we go. All right, so now let's get rid of this here, and we'll talk about the solution. What do you do? All right, because there's plenty of times when I've talked about this, and people go, man, I think I got all of those, or a whole bunch of them.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so how you're describing it, it sounds like, you think about the DSM.
Right.
A bunch of mental health disorder, what you're describing, like
Yep.
mood dysregulation, dissociation,
Right.
depression. So if, things come from attachment, I know you're gonna go into the solution.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Because
The solution?
Yeah,
Let's-
because we don't really talk about attachment when we talk about mental health issues.
Right, and people are starting to do that more.
Uh-huh.
But like I said, that's where the seed is for pretty much all of those. But when we talk about the solutions, okay? What we want to do here, two parts, is we want to connect with ourself and connect with others. Connect with ourselves and connect with our others. Connect with ourselves. This we've talked about a couple weeks ago here. Can we, when we were talking about like Jeffrey Schwartz, develop mindful awareness? Mindful awareness. Think about this. For you, where do you hold stress in your body? Just think about that. Anybody want to share? Where? Go ahead. Stomach.
Yes.
Huh?
I was gonna say the same thing in my body and like just all of my
Body and gut.
Yeah, body.
Neck and shoulders.
Neck and shoulders. Yeah, many people neck and shoulders. Yeah.
Neck and shoulder.
Neck and shoulders. Yeah.
Jaw.
Huh?
My jaw.
Jaw. Yeah.
Yes.
Often. Yeah. You see, and so kind of what this is this mindful awareness. Like, wow, my neck and shoulders, or what's going on with my gut, or do you notice that my jaw's a little sore because I'm clenching it? Like, I'm what am I stressed about? What's going on with this? How can I, is that I'm becoming aware of my stress, becoming aware of how my stress is impacting me. All right, think about this now. Again, might take a little more insight. Where do you hold anger in your body?
My heart.
In your heart. Interesting.
Chest,
Chest. Anyone else? Where you hold anger?
My jaw.
Jaw. Right. Now my office is down the street here. Rodney Yee, he's now a world famous yoga instructor, by the way, but he used to have a yoga studio right down here I used to go to. And what he said a lot of people hold anger in their thighs. Now, I have no clue if that's true or not, but I've said that once here like 20 years ago, and this guy raised his hand. He goes, I've been angry my whole life, and my thighs have been tight my whole life. He goes, I've got really, really tight thighs. Now, so again, it's where do I hold anger in my body? And then where do I hold trauma in my body?
In my eyes.
In your eyes. Interesting. In your heart. You see? So that's what developing this mindful awareness of how am I feeling? How is this impacting me? And so I'm trying to connect more. I'll jump back and forth between these. Connect more with myself. Connecting with others. This is something I talk about all the time in school, is how do I build social skills and sober social support, or even social support. Social skills and social support, because what I talk about, again, 36 years of teaching college, technology didn't exist. We didn't have computers in the classroom. If I wanted to show a video, I had to set up for a TV to be wheeled in with a VCR. I know it sounds like the Stone Age, but that's how it was. What I have noticed since technology, especially phones, all right, have come out, what I see in my classroom, in my office as a therapist, in here in treatment, I see more social anxiety. I see more social isolation. I see more panic attacks. I see more, kind of just anxiety and depression in general, overall. Because so many people, social skills, and again, throw COVID onto this. COVID, and for you guys, I mean, COVID like screwed with all of us, of course. But think of kids growing up, they miss this whole social connection with others. And so these social skills, that there are plenty of my students who are terrified to say to you, can I take a picture of your notes from last class because I missed it? They're terrified. All right, and then me saying jump out the window. If I tell them to ask somebody, go ahead.
Yes, during COVID, my older son was going through first grade, and when they had to do all their schooling on Zoom, and then when we went back the following year, we noticed that he developed anxiety disorder going back.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, no, it's not, maybe not it might have been a disorder, but
Yeah, not a disorder,
it probably just, just give him some time and he'll connect. But it's that, because for all of us, when we got back around people, it's like, okay, people, how close do I get to them? Oh my gosh, somebody sneezed over there, I better run. I still do that, but again, but what happens with this and our social support, you think about this, do you have somebody to talk to when you're stressed? Do you have somebody to share, and this is where recovery can be so wonderful, is building that social support for a lot of people. And so again, this is a work in progress. And a lot of people go, well, this is just how I am. I'm just shy. I'm just a quiet person. I just whatever I am. So we look at this here. What else do we want to do connecting with ourselves? As I say every time I'm up here, we want to develop new coping skills. New coping skills. How can I develop new coping skills? How can I, and this is the term, the term I always use is work on, okay? Every great athlete is working on something. Everyone. I'm working on my strength and condition. I'm working on my footwork. I'm working on my speed work. I'm working on whatever it is. Working on my recovery. Working on my endurance. All right? What is it that you need to do to work on you? All right? What are the skills? Identifying the areas of your life. You know what? I need to work on my social skills. I need to work on, here, this is a huge, hard one here, and this is it'll be in the handout, okay? How can I forgive myself? How can I do that? And there's a book it's in here, it's called Forgive for Good by Fred Luskin down at Stanford. It's a wonderful book. But how can I work on forgiving myself? For things I did, for things I didn't do, for things that happened to me, the things I should have done, whatever it is. But I'm trying to identify these kinds of things. Because what we're looking at here, working on, this equals personal growth. All right? That hopefully we're not the same, the same person all the time, every year, and this is the way I am, doing the same thing. That I'm trying to improve. So I'm working on forgiving myself, being easier on myself, trying to develop this self-awareness, okay? Perhaps here and here. So what I'm going to do in my social skills, social support, connecting with myself, connecting with others, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more and I'm going to listen more. I'm going to work on my listening skills. I'm going to try to communicate better. Go ahead.
Going back to COVID, that was when I started drinking more.
Yes.
Because that's when we were sent home to telework 5 days a week. And all of a sudden, we weren't talking to anybody anymore. And that's when it slowly progressed to day drinking.
Absolutely. That's a common thing I've heard in the last 3 or 4 years. Well,
Really?
3 years. Absolutely. There's so many, when I'm doing an assessment, when did your drinking start? When did alcohol or drugs become a problem from you? Many people, COVID.
It was COVID.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
me.
for a lot of people. Yeah. And so what we want to do also with this, so we want to work here connecting with ourselves. Can we identify our own feelings? How am I feeling today? Like with this little feeling chart. How am I feeling? Am I confused? Am I feeling guilty? Am I confident? Am I sad? Am I happy? Whatever. How is it that I'm feeling? And again, that I'm trying to mindfully check in, mindfully be aware, develop this mindful awareness of how I'm feeling. Well, I'm really angry today, or I'm feeling lonely today, or I'm feeling sad today. You know, whatever it is that we're trying to connect with how we feel, because with that lack of bond, lack of attachment, it's that disconnect from how we feel. That's to survive. We disconnect from those feelings. And the opposite is, how do I reconnect with those feelings? How do I connect with how I'm feeling? If I'm feeling scared. And again, these kinds of things, because so many people, and I'm sure some of you are in here because you relapsed, is that a lot, when people, before they pick up and use again, they're not saying, hey, I'm struggling. Do you have some time? Hey, I've been thinking of using, I've been having some cravings lately. Can we talk? All right, I guess I've got to be strong. I'll get through this. It's up to me and all this kind of stuff. All right, but that's what we're trying to do, is we want to identify our own feelings. Okay, what we want to do as well, how can we, here, connecting with ourselves, build our self-esteem? Right, think about that. As I say all the time, can you look at building your self-esteem as a 5-year process? All right, I'm trying to build my self-esteem gradually. So what am I going to do? Well, obviously I'm going to quit doing things that bring down my self-esteem. All right, I'm going to start doing things that are going to help build my self-esteem. I'm going to work to forgive myself for things that have happened in the past. I'm going to do things like give myself some affirmations. Hey, I did a good job today. I went to all my meetings. I did this, I did that, whatever. I did what I was supposed to do. I checked everything off the list. Okay? I'm building my self-esteem. And then the question I always ask, how are you at accepting compliments? Think about that.
That's a rough one.
That's a rough one. And what you want to do is you want to work on that one. I'm working on accepting compliments. I'm working on being able to take compliments.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like they're lying or something.
See?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. That's back to the guy I raced. You give him a compliment, he'd say, oh, you're just saying that. You don't really know me. Mm-hmm. You see? And he would have an answer of why you didn't mean it when you did mean it. And see, that's the shift that we're looking for in recovery.
And kind of getting out of your comfort zone too.
100% yes, getting out of your comfort zone. There was a guy who spoke here 25 years ago or so, and he said, and he was back then like 20-something years sober, he said, what I did in recovery was the opposite of what I did in school. Is in school I sat in the back, in meetings I always sat in the front. In school I never talked, in meetings I always share. In school I just isolated, and in meetings I talked to people every day.
100%.
And
That's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that is out of the comfort zone. Exactly. And again, the more you do it, the more it becomes in the comfort zone. Kind of like your kid going back to school. It's a little awkward at first. You keep doing it, you start connecting with people, and pretty soon in 3 or 4 months, everything's back to okay. You see, and that's what you want to look at. But that's part of building the self-esteem here. Okay, so we want to practice those listening skills as well, and we want to work. That's a whole nother one we talk about. A whole nother group doing here on calming that negative internal voice here. Okay, all right. So now what else? Connecting with others. So what we want to do here is, we want to, in connecting with others here, think about this, and I say this one all the time, going up to somebody in a meeting and saying, hey, I liked your share. Hey, I really, I'm not saying I want to be your best friend or I want you to be my sponsor. I just can relate to what you said. All right, doing a short share in a meeting. Hi, I don't really like to talk at meetings. I'm just going to listen today. Thank you. You said something. You said something. These kinds of things. Finding, maybe, I've had people before, they would say, I'll go to a 6 a.m. meeting because it's not really crowded. All right, and the people there are really serious. Or, and it works for me because I'm a morning person. I have other people say, I'll go to a 9 p.m. meeting because it's not really crowded and I like it and it's, a smaller group. But I'm finding things that work for me, all right, within the program. That's what we're trying to do, all right? And so what else we want to do, like I said, can we do some type of service here? no, we don't have to overkill service, and we don't want to be too codependent and too helpful and all this, but maybe some type of service. And so that's a way of connecting with others. I'll help set up chairs, I'll help take down chairs, these kinds of things. And so what I'm going to try to do connecting with others is gradually open up to others. Okay, because see, that mistrust of others and that isolation, I want to know there are people I can trust and there are people I can't trust, but maybe that's with a sponsor, maybe that's with a therapist, maybe that's with a peer, maybe that's with somebody in recovery, maybe it's with your brother or sister or your mother or father, I don't know, but it's with somebody. We need to find these people to build that sober network of support. That's what we're trying to do, is connecting with others, okay? And so we're focusing on listening. We're looking also kind of here, trying to, we want to connect with others, connect with self. We want to try to be open to some type of spiritual connection. All right, and so many people get turned off by the word spirituality, religion, or whatever like this, but some type of spiritual connection. That what you're trying to do here, maybe you're listening to a podcast, maybe you're listening to a talk, thing, maybe you're joining a group that we talked about last time that goes for a hike, and at the end of the hike they go to have a meeting, and then they whatever. But I'm trying to connect with others, because the other example I always put up here, so remember, squares a male, circles a female. All right, this is a multi-generational one here. All right, so these two were married. Here is the son way down here. Here's the daughter. This is the guy I'm talking about. His parents were divorced. His father was an alcoholic, cheated on mom all the time. His grandfather was an alcoholic, got sober just by quit drinking on his own, but he did maybe have more of a religious experience than a spiritual experience. When parents got divorced, mom didn't want him. So mom gave him to her parents to raise, took her daughter and moved to another state. Didn't want him. The grandparents didn't want him, so they put him in boarding school. All right, rejected. Who is that? That's Bill W., the founder of AA. And what does he say? Alcoholism is a misguided attempt for a spiritual connection. I was trying to connect in some way. And so that's what happens to so many people is it's a way of, I'm trying to use as a way of trying to connect somehow. And again, with school starting now, is, you think about this, I would say, kids who move from one place to another, and this is their first week of school this week or next week, and they'll say they're in, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. The first day of school, if somebody says, do you get high? They got instant people to hang out with if they say yes. May not be friends, but maybe instant people to hang out with. And see, that's what a lot of people do, is I'm looking, it's a way I'm trying to connect that will happen. So what we're looking at is some other healthier ways of trying to connect. All right? And so, two things. Gabor Mate, one of the things he says, instead of asking, why do I have an addiction? He said, what you should do, what's my emotional pain? Focus on what's my emotional pain about? What's the pain I'm feeling? What's this emotional pain that I have? Whether I have a disease or not, whatever, it's what's my pain? And how can you work to deal with this? Because again, in abnormal psych, every single disorder in abnormal psychology, the more social support you have, the less likely you are to get a disorder, and the better your recovery is from a disorder. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay? So the more social support you have, think of depression. The more social support you have, the less likely you are to be depressed. Or if you are depressed, the more social support you have, the better your recovery is from depression, anxiety, any disorder. Fill in the blank. Go ahead.
Yeah, you talked about finding your pain, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if it's hard to find that pain? Is there tools,
Yeah.
Sometimes it is hard to find that pain.
I think you want to look at a couple things. I'm big on options. What are options for looking at this? Things you could do. Whether talk to somebody, journal. Be aware of your body. When is my pain coming up? Why is my pain coming up now? What's going on in this situation that reminds me of, oh my gosh, maybe that's what my pain's tied to. But again, anybody who was bullied is going to have a boatload of pain. And here's the other thing, you know, you talk about being bullied in school, sad one, there are plenty of people who are bullied by their parents.
Yeah, I absolutely was.
Really, yeah, bullied by their parents. That's a ton of emotional pain. And so again, this is what I'm trying to do as well. And so both with here with others is I'm trying to, you know, again, work on the emotional regulation skills. How can I regulate my emotions? And again, it's the same, it's okay to be angry at your parents. It's okay to be angry at people. But see, so a lot of people, it's like, I feel like I'm betraying them if I'm angry at them. And almost like there are a lot of parents, when I talk about it, it's a skill set. They didn't know how to love and nurture a kid. Maybe their parents bullied them. Maybe their parents were really mean to them. And so they thought, I'm going to toughen you up. And what happens is they crush people. They absolutely crush their spirit. And so again, is like, well, what I want to do is how can I build how I am with this background? Again, this is not an easy task. It's not, oh, just do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's also addressing, I mean, there's so much trauma, right? And some of us, like, how do you, like, how, it's hard to compartmentalize what you can't address all at once, you know?
No, I always say, like, the godfather of trauma treatment is Peter Levine. And what his theory is, he says, trauma lives in the body, not in the event. And so what he looks at is, where is this trauma in your body? Not necessarily what happened, all right? And this may not be in this handout that I'm going to give you, but if you look up for Peter Levine here, he's got a lot of great videos on YouTube. And the one I show part of in my class, it's called Ray's Story, all right? And you see a guy who experienced trauma from combat, and his body's still reacting to it. And Levine's not, oh, tell me what happened. He said, let's work with this trauma in your body, and let's try to release this trauma from your body. Another really good book on trauma, I mean, a lot of people have read The Body Keeps the Score. The one I like also is called What My Bones Know. And it's a relatively new book, and the author Stephanie Fu, all right, she's from, and the thing I like about her book and her is that she's from the South Bay here, and she's a reporter. So she approaches trauma like a reporter, not like a therapist. Like, how does this start? Like, I want to look into this. And she approaches trauma treatment like a reporter. I want to see what works and what doesn't work. And she has her own trauma. But I really like the book because of the way it's, you know, it's a lot different than, you know, I mean, I love therapists, obviously, but then a total therapeutic approach. It's more like a investigative reporter. I want to dig into this stuff and look into that. And that's What My Bones Know. That's a wonderful book as well. Yes?
Who's the author again on that?
Fu, F-O-O, Stephanie Fu. All right. Other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback before we're going to wrap up here in just a little bit here, but anything else you guys like to say, add, anything here? All right. Well, Rick, I thank you for coming in and doing this. Anything you want to add, or?
No, I just want to know how come you kept asking me what my clean date was.
That's why, because I was like, man, I think they might even been in here at the same time, you know. And again, it's see, that's the thing. I see people like you that you're still here, and he's been gone for a long time. And like I said, I saw that 3-line obituary with no picture and no comments. I went, oh, this is traumatic. This is tragic. What a horrible, horrible, you know, outcome. And that's kind of the outcomes people can have here, you know. It's so that's, yeah.
I do have a question. It might be lengthy, so.
Well, then let's hold it for a second, and let's go ahead and we'll just wrap up with this. You can go ahead and, go ahead and turn that off. So we'll, ta-da.